What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your MLB writer here at Occupy Fantasy, here with a look at the action on Monday, April 18th on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. Big slate tonight. Fortunately, we do have to start a discussion around the weather. We have a couple of games that should be washouts. That's the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Washington Nationals, and the Chicago White Sox at the Cleveland Guardians. Looks like 100% chance of rain, pretty cold in both those spots. I doubt they get those games in tonight. We also have to keep an eye on Tampa Bay at the Chicago Cubs, San Francisco Giants at New York Mets, and even a little bit Pittsburgh Pirates at Milwaukee Brewers. Pretty interesting slate from a weather perspective. We've got 5 games on the board that may have some problems, and all those 5 games have pretty massive downgrades to the batters there. So that's something to keep in mind as we get ready for the action this evening. The first place we have to start, as always, is looking at the pitchers on the slate. We have a couple of elite options that stand out, and I'm pretty much satisfied with the 2 options that we have tonight at the top of the board. Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers facing the Braves, Frankie Montas of the Oakland A's facing the Baltimore Orioles. Montas facing those same Orioles that struck out quite a bit against Nestor Cortez for the Yankees yesterday. So pretty good option there with Montas as a DraftKings SB2 at a really reasonable price, $7,300. And I may even consider going Montas over Kershaw on FanDuel tonight just because of the price tag difference. Both pretty high, pretty big favorites this evening. Pretty reasonable strikeout per innings pitch projections. So we're certainly going to like what those guys bring to the table this evening. Looking at some other high strikeout options that are on the board that you may want to consider in high-risk lineups. Eric Lauer for the Brewers against the Pirates, projected for 1.2 strikeouts per innings pitched tonight in that matchup. A little rainy there, so bear that in mind as you get ready for the evening. Tyler McGill, same story, rain for the Mets and the Giants, but does have a favorable spot here as a slight favorite against the San Francisco Giants. Sean Manaea for the Padres. Luis Garcia for the Astros, another interesting option here. That's expensive, a little value option on FanDuel potentially with a fairly high strikeout per innings pitch projection. Shane McClanahan for the Rays, another rain problem spot. Aaron Nola, we'll get to him in a second. And Nick Lodolo for the Reds against the Padres facing Sean Manaea. Those are all the guys with strikeout upside tonight that we would consider rostering in MLB DFS. Now, the problem with Nola tonight is Nola is facing our top offense in the Occupy Fantasy Stacks dashboard. That would be the Colorado Rockies. That's because the Phillies are visiting Coors Field to face the Rockies. So Nola is probably the ultimate high-risk, high-reward pitcher to throw into your lineups tonight. A lot of people are going to be targeting the Coors Field game. Certainly susceptible to giving up a lot of hard contact and therefore a lot of runs and fantasy points tonight. Our model agrees, obviously, with this number 1 OF index ranking, number 2 isolated slugging ranking, fairly modest implied team total as the underdog side of that game at Coors Field this evening. So Colorado probably a lot more high risk than the opposing Phillies in that matchup at Coors Field. Phillies would be my favorite stack on the board this evening. Now, looking at what we have available for hitters to consider in our lineups this evening, going to the top of the Occupy model, we have 3 Philadelphia Phillies at the top of the board. So that's probably an easy place to start. Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, and Kyle Schwarber. Probably the best place to go if you're going to be building one lineup tonight. You're most of the way there for your 4-man stack on FanDuel, and you just need a couple more bats to get there on DraftKings for a primary stack. We love the Phillies against Chad Kuhl for the Colorado Rockies, who actually is the lowest ranked starter in our pitcher model this evening. Kuhl, probably, hopefully for us, if we're backing the Phillies, going to have a tough night tonight in MLB on the mound. Kuhl gave up an elite ISO and elite WOBA to hitters from both sides of the dish last season and in the beginning of this season, but he's most susceptible to hard contact against lefties. So that brings us back to Harper and Schwarber, and then Didi Gregorius and Simon Muzziotti are the other lefties in the lineup that we're anticipating tonight. So those guys will be interesting options for your lineups. On the other side of the game, obviously, we go to the Rockies. They're right behind the Phillies at the top of our model here. CJ Cron, Sam Hilliard. Crone and Hilliard, obviously the best options. Connor Joe, Dom Nunez at catcher if he's in the game. Value Alan Trejo. Aaron Nola susceptible to giving up hard contact to lefties. An elite ISO conceded to lefties last year and through the beginning of this year. That would put us on Sam Hilliard, Ryan McMahon, and Charlie Blackmon. They're in the lineup tonight. Those are the lefties facing Aaron Nola. Now, a third stack that we have our eye on, looking at our stacks dashboard, those Milwaukee Brewers, if that game isn't too impacted by the rain. Despite the downward weather adjustment, we still have the number 1 projected isolated slugging ranking and number 1 weighted on base average ranking for them in our model. They're facing Pittsburgh's Zach Thompson. Thompson, very interesting splits. Good against righties, bad against lefties. So the lefties to target against Thompson tonight. Well, let's pull up our model and look at who we have available for the Brewers this evening. Looks like Rowdy Tellez, Willie Adames, Hunter Renfroe, Colton Wong, the best options overall. The best lefties in the anticipated lineup will be Tellez, Colton Wong, Jace Peterson, who we do have in here, Christian Yelich, and Omar Narvaez at catcher. Jumping over to DraftKings, I've already kind of started thinking about what I want to do. You can get 5 Phillies in here, including our top options, including Kershaw, our top pitcher. 36.75 per player remaining. Certainly enough room to make something happen on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, we can actually go with Montas. I went with Montas over Kershaw here just because of the price discount. And you may need to do that to jam in these expensive Philly bats, which I have done here as well. 25.75 remaining per player for your final 4 spots for another stack here on FanDuel. Certainly possible to get things done with that much salary remaining in your lineups as well. Now, we will have our eye on the weather forecast throughout the rest of the day here. The Occupy Fantasy Daily Plug on our website will be updated by about 6 p.m. Eastern with our final rankings for the day. And we will make sure that we cover all the postponed games, if any happen, so you're aware of that as we get closer to lock time here. We appreciate you guys watching these videos as always. We'll be back tomorrow with another look at the slate for Tuesday evening. You can consider joining our Discord. There's a link to do so below the description of every video. And once again, we will talk to you tomorrow for more MLB DFS action.